Embrace the suck. And I say that to a lot of young adults who are struggling to launch in life because the reality is many of them are trying to do the exact opposite. They're trying to avoid the suck. They're trying to avoid the uncomfortable feelings that come with when you're doing something that you're not sure you can do yet. Or you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole that feels deeper every time you fall and fail a little further behind, right? And when you look a little deeper, a lot of them are dealing with the same kind of thoughts. They say things like, I'm not good enough. If I try and fail again, it just proves I'm a loser. Everyone else my age is ahead of me. People are going to see right through me, and I know I don't belong here. Or they'll say, I don't even know where to start. Or a big one I hear is, I just don't feel motivated. And by the way, when a young adult says, I just don't feel motivated, a lot of the time what they really mean is, I'm afraid that if I try again, I'll just fail again. And when those kind of thoughts are running through someone's mind, every step forward can start to feel overwhelming. So what happens, right? When they feel overwhelmed, they avoid, they hide in their room, they spend hours on the internet, they game, they distract themselves, they numb out. Not because they're lazy, but because avoiding the situation, it's the only way they know how to stop feeling like a failure or how to keep themselves from spiraling into anxiety or panic. Let me tell you about a young man that I worked with, and he was stuck in this very cycle. I think it'll help you understand. See, after this young man graduated high school, he went off to college and he liked technology, so he thought he was going to become a programmer. But once he got there, he quickly realized something that a lot of people discover when they start something new. He didn't actually know as much as he thought he did. The classes were harder than he expected. He got discouraged. He started believing maybe he would never be able to learn programming. So he switched majors. He found something new that he thought would be easier. He started learning how to repair computers. Back in the day, he had built a computer in high school, so he thought it would be an easy, safe bet to go that direction. But the classes there, they required more work than what he expected. So he started falling behind. He became anxious. He started avoiding his work. And that led to him falling even more behind. And eventually, he failed those classes too. So, you know where the story goes. He had to move back home and spent about a year and a half mostly in his room, just gaming on the internet, avoiding life. And that's when I first talked with him. He described himself in a very specific way. He said, I am a failure. Not that he had failed at something, but that he was a failure. And once someone starts believing that about themselves, trying anything new becomes terrifying. Because if you try and fail again, it just confirms the belief, right? So you start to avoid so that life feels safer. Now, his parents were in this equation too, right? His parents were trying their best to help him. But like many parents, they didn't really know what to do in this situation. I mean, sometimes when he was really down on himself, talking about how worthless he was, how worthless he felt, they would just back off. They would try to make things easier for him. And at other times, when he was angry and blaming people, they would argue back. They would get defensive. Both reactions are understandable, but neither one of them were helping him move forward. So we started working on something different. We would start we would start changing the way the conversations went. Like when he would start talking about how worthless he was, they stopped backing away from the next step, right? They stopped helping him avoid, but instead they learned to respond with love and confidence. They would say things like, we love you. We believe in you. We know you can do this. and they didn't shame him, but they also didn't let him avoid. They didn't help him to avoid anyway. And when he would lash out and blame other people, they learned to disengage from the argument instead of engaging and escalating it. They would say something like, "We know this is really hard for you. We know that you're struggling, but we still believe in you." And over time, these conversations started to change the atmosphere. One of the things that we talked about was resilience. I would talk with his family and especially with this young man. And resilience basically means you try something, you fail, maybe you even get your butt kicked. But instead of deciding that it means that you are a failure, you understand that you just learned something in that process. So you adjust, you get back up, and you try again. That process, that struggle, that is how people grow. And that's where the phrase comes in: embrace the suck. And I tell young adults I tell them this all the time, right? You can't embrace the suck without the suck. There isn't some secret path in life where you get stronger, more confident, more capable without going through the things that make you feel uncomfortable. That path does not exist. If you want to grow in your life, if you want to become independent, if you want to build confidence, if you want a better job, if you want better relationships, you are going to have to do things that you don't know how to do yet, which means it's going to feel uncomfortable. It might feel awkward and you might fail. But see, that struggle isn't proof that something is wrong. It's actually the process that makes you stronger. So, with this young man, after many, many conversations with me and his parents about confidence and courage and resilience, he decided to go back to that one class that overwhelmed him and kicked his butt before. I remember a few weeks after he had started that class again, he came back and he said something really interesting to me. He said, "It's weird, but I feel like I'm addicted to learning this stuff." And I remember smiling and saying to him, "You remember when you told me that you could not get motivated? Well, what you just described, that's motivation." See, what hadn't changed was the class. What had changed was his relationship to the struggle. Before, when he encountered something he didn't know how to do, it triggered fear. Now, when he encountered something he didn't know how to do, it triggered curiosity. He believed he could figure it out. And once he believed that, the motivation showed up. Right? He was embracing the suck. And once that shift happened, something else started to happen with this young man. His life started opening back up again. He was doing so well in his class. I'm not kidding you. He was doing so well in his class that his teacher actually helped him find a job. Now, I'll tell you something. Starting that job really freaked him out at first. But now he knew how to embrace the suck. So he showed up anyway. He kept learning. He kept pushing through the uncomfortable moments, and he got better at the job. He also joined this gaming group, and he started making friends. Before that, he used to avoid social situations because they intimidated him. But now, he knew how to embrace the suck. He pushed through the awkwardness, he pushed through the discomfort, and he started to build real friendships. I remember at one point, he even went with some of his friends. They went to Chicago to go to this gaming competition to go watch it together. But there was something else that changed too: his relationship with his parents. He wasn't constantly lashing out at them. He wasn't blaming them. Now, when they asked him how things were going, he didn't feel that same crushing shame, right? He was able to move forward. He was learning. He was embracing the suck. There's another point that I want parents to understand about how they talk with their young adults, things they need to talk about. Your adult child needs to know that life moves in waves. There are going to be periods where things are hard, where you're learning, where you're struggling, where you feel uncertain. But there are also going to be moments where things feel good, when you realize you're growing, where you enjoy the life that you're building. The goal is to learn how to embrace both. That's really important. The goal is to learn how to embrace both because the difficult moments teach you how to grow, and the good moments remind you why it's worth pushing through the struggle. So, when I talk to young adults about embracing the suck, I'm not saying that life is miserable. Not at all. I'm saying the struggle is not your enemy. It's the training ground that makes you stronger. And if you avoid that struggle forever, eventually things you're avoiding, they'll catch up to you. And that moment is going to feel even more overwhelming. But if you lean into it, even in small steps, you start building something powerful: confidence, resilience, a belief in yourself that says, I can figure this out. And that belief changes everything. Because once someone believes that they can figure it out, they stop trying to avoid the struggle. They start learning how to embrace the suck. All right. So that's what I wanted to talk with you guys about tonight, right? This idea of embracing the suck is actually a really important conversation that parents need to know how to have with their young adults, right? Because a lot of times it looks like laziness. They just don't want to do it. It's a lack of motivation, but that's not what I see with them, right? It's more they're afraid of failing, they're afraid of looking stupid. It's the fear of confirming the belief that they're just not capable, they're not good enough, right? They get so lost on the fact that they're in this deep hole and they don't know how to get out, and they just avoid and they void. So I'm curious, does any of this sound familiar to you? Right? Do you hear some of those same thoughts from your young adult or see that same avoidance happening in your home? Uh, those are different ways of looking at what is happening and helping your child see that their effort matters. That when they put that effort in, when they push forward, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be hard, but on the other side of that is something that feels really good. Your connection with them really matters, right? When they know that you unconditionally love them and you're going to speak truth, right? You're still going to have boundaries. You're not going to avoid things, but you really believe in them and you help them see. Maybe share some of your life, those moments where you struggled and you had that fear that it might not work out, and you pushed through and you learned that that was actually what you needed to grow, to be stronger, to learn something. We need we need these kids to see this. I know there's much more to the equation, but tonight I wanted to focus on that.